We put together a massive list of things most players don't know about in MoP PvP, including abilities that are secretly OP, hidden mechanics that can elevate your gameplay, and even some advice for helping you gear. And we're going to start by taking a trip back in time and talking about abilities that are absolute bait. During the original MoP release, there were 3 massively overtuned abilities: Frost Bomb from mages, Heroic Strike from warriors, and Stampede from hunters, which are all way weaker in the classic patch today. Frost Bomb was an insanely broken spell 14 years ago, but its damage was eventually nerfed, and every good mage today will play with Living Bomb. As for Heroic Strike, this ability used to be able to one-shot thanks to a spell called Taste for Blood, but this was so broken that Blizzard eventually redesigned how it works entirely. When it comes to Stampede, this ability was actually bugged for the first few months of MoP, and was doing way more damage than intended while popularizing triple hunter comps in 3v3. After a bug fix, this ability was still strong but not nearly as broken. But if there is one thing Blizzard still hasn't nerfed after all these years, it's Wintergrasp. Yes, the epic BG from Wrath of the Lich King. This is still the best way to farm honor in MoP, especially by completing the weekly quests. And speaking of gearing, there's one weird quirk that may or may not benefit you. Did you know expertise gets converted to spell hit for casters? That's right, which means you could technically reforge expertise if you want. This means that the ratios that increase expertise with weapons are technically beneficial for casters too. In any case, reforging is always a pain in the ass, since knowing the exact stat weights and breakpoints for every spec is going to take some time and research. But if you are a skill cap member, you will automatically get perfect reforged light profiles for every spec in PvP. And along with our BIS list feature, you will automatically know how to gear your character without ever needing to tab out. Skill cap members also get access to hundreds of new courses for MoP Classic, and as always, everything is backed up by a rating gain guarantee. Use the special discount link below to get started. Moving on, did you know silences are better than you think? As a little bit of lore, when Skillcapped won BlizzCon in 2013, Chanimal actually used his blanket CS on the warrior. Why? Because it meant he couldn't rallying cry. Silences are also really good against Death Knights and actually prevent them from using a lot of important abilities, with the exception of Dark Sim, which is technically a physical spell. And in case you didn't know, shamans can't use any of their totems while silenced, which was a change that happened in the middle of the original expansion. Finally, Blanket CS is really good into hunter pets of all things, as it completely prevents Roar of Sacrifice. It's rare that you would ever need to do this, but it is worth knowing. Speaking of pets, they're a lot better than most people realize, and in some matchups, they are the primary kill target. If you take down a mage's water elemental, they're going to struggle to kite and CC thanks to less Fingers of Frost procs, and they will even have a huge portion of their damage nerfed in the process. Warlock pets are also super important to kill too. If you manage to snipe down their Fell Hunter, it means no more CS, and more importantly, no more Soul Link. Against hunters, killing their pets is not as crucial, but will prevent them from using Roar of Sacrifice, which is actually a relevant cooldown in MoP. It's even sometimes worth it to cleave down DK ghouls, since it means they won't be able to use Dark Transformation, which gives their pet more damage and CC. And while we're on the topic of pets, if you play Hunter, Mage, Warlock, and maybe even DK, you should know about the /PetMoveTo command, which you can actually use to micro your pet around the map. And as a bonus tip here, if you ever need your pet to come back to you, the pet follow command will make your pet move faster than moving it manually. Even though it's not technically a pet, Lightwell is a bit wonky in MoP, since priests can place it in very unusual places like on top of pillars out of range of melee. Lightwell is definitely worth killing though if you have the chance. Just be ready to play a little Easter egg hunt. By the way, for all you holy priests out there, be sure to check out our holy priest course after this to learn some tricks on how to hide your Lightwell. Also, speaking of priests, mind control is a bit different in MoP. First of all, it's called Dominate Mind, and unlike retail, it does not DR with Psychic Scream, which can lead to some really nasty CC chains. Also, while it can be interrupted, it can also be dispelled offensively. That's right, MC is actually a buff on the priests themselves, so if you don't have your kick available, you can potentially purge it. Other than that, MC has all the typical mechanics, including the fact that it can steal friendly AoE spells and can even be used to run enemy players into CC from their own partners, including Freezing Trap and Ring of Frost, to name a few. Some abilities even behave differently depending on the positioning of each player. Gouge from rogues only works when the target is facing them. There's a glyph that also makes it work from behind, but most rogues will not be playing this. Monk spells also behave a bit differently depending on your positioning. If a monk uses paralysis on a target's back, it will last 2 seconds longer, and if they use their kick when the target is facing them, it will actually act as a 2-second blanket silence. And on the topic of positioning, it's always a bit confusing when you should and should not be stacking on your team. With the popularity of warriors, you definitely want to avoid stacking, since Shockwave will have its cooldown reduced if it hits multiple targets. And obviously, you should avoid stacking with warlocks and priests, since Shadow Fury and AoE Fear can completely change the direction of a game. But one ability you might want to stack for is Fist of Fury of all things, under one very specific condition. Windwalker monks do some absurd damage with Tiger Eye Brew and can 100-0 a target with a leg sweep Fist of Fury combo. Now, with that in mind, if there's nothing you can do to peel the monk, you could stack on your partner, as doing so will reduce the damage of Fist of Fury. It's super unlikely you will ever need to do this, but there is a small chance you could one day save your teammate this way. And for all you healers out there, if you're ever worried about getting CC'd by a mage, you could try stacking on your team when they use Frozen Orb. Sure, it's going to feed them more procs, but at least you're basically immune to poly when it's up. And if you really want to tilt your opponents, be sure to wear the Destructive Primal Diamond as a healer. This is going to be your best meta gem against the vast majority of teams thanks to the 1% Spell Reflect. It doesn't seem like much, but reflecting a CC at the right time can be absolutely game-changing. You can even reflect damage spells too, including ones you might not expect, like Soul Reaper for instance. And we should note here that warriors can also spell reflect Soul Reaper, which is a neat trick to prevent yourself from getting executed. Oh, another useful thing to know as a healer is that many abilities will go through Smoke Bomb in MoP. Monks can use healing spheres on any target in Bomb, and can even revival to spot heal too. And unlike Kata, Resto Shamans can actually Spirit Link targets too when they're standing in Smoke Bomb. There are of course other AoE heals that work through LOS, including Tranquility and Divine Hymn. No matter what class you play, there's one super important mechanic to understand if you want to min-max your rotation. It's called Snapshotting. If you're coming from retail, you're probably used to your dots or hots automatically updating their damage or healing based on your buffs. If you get any damage modifier, your dot damage instantly goes up, and once the buff fades, it goes back down. But that's not how things work in Mists of Pandaria. In these classic expansions, the amount of damage or healing any spell will do is only affected by the buffs on your character or the debuffs on the enemy. When the spell leaves your hands, just like a photograph, the amount of damage or healing is snapshotted. And if you play a dot class, but especially Affliction Warlock, there's a lot you can do to min-max your DPS with snapshotting. But I know what you're thinking, this isn't that useful for every class. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Did you know Frost Mages can snapshot the effect of Shatter with their Living Bomb? If they press it while the target is Nova'd, every tick will have a super high chance to crit. Even Paladins can technically snapshot too, with abilities like Execution Sentence. If they use it with a bunch of modifiers up, it will do way more damage even if those buffs expire. These are exactly the sort of damage mechanics we teach in our courses at skillcap.com, where you can learn the hidden secrets for playing just like a pro in Mists of Pandaria. And if you want to save hours of your valuable time setting up your UI, we got you covered with one click, literally. SkillCap members get complete access to the #1 UI for PvP with the perfect settings for every add-on you would ever need to reach your goals. All of this and more is why we offer a rank up guarantee while using our services. So if you learned something from this video and are serious about getting ahead, be sure to use the exclusive discount link below. For now, we want to thank you all for watching. See you soon.